Now I'm going to go over number 2 of this worksheet, the one that's titled Practice Problems, that comes after types of energy and their equations. So, number 2, you are eating dinner and decided that it would be fun to fling food into the air for the sake of physics and learning more about the conservation of energy. You're holding your food at 1.4 meters above the ground, and you decide to calculate the gravitational potential energy of the 0.2 kilograms of food. What is the gravitational potential energy of your food? All right, so the first thing that I need to do is remember or look at my notes to see what my gravitational potential energy equation is. And it is GPE is equal to M times G times H. And so all I need to do is plug in what each of those things are. So my mass is the 0.2 kilograms. And I'm not going to worry about doing units right now. G is 9.8 newtons per kilogram on Earth all the time. So even though it doesn't have 9.8 somewhere in this problem, I know that it is 9.8. And the last thing is that I'm holding the food 1.4 meters above the ground. So 1.4 meters. Then all I need to do is plug it into a calculator. And when I do, I get a gravitational potential energy of 2.744 joules. So, part 2, it says next you launch the food into the air and determine that it flies all the way up to a maximum height of 3 meters. How much gravitational potential energy is there at the top? Well, the top, it's at a height of 3 meters. I still have the same mass of 0.2 kilograms, and G is also still the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm again write the equation GPE is equal to my mass times the gravitational field strength times height, and then I just need to substitute in each of those numbers. So the mass is 0.2 kilograms, G is 9.8, and my height is 3 meters. And when I multiply that out, I get 5.88 joules. The next question asks, how much of each type of energy are there at the top of the food's flight? So I'm going to look at my picture over here. So up here at the top, you'll notice that it's not moving. Well, when it's not moving, that means that my kinetic energy is 0. So my kinetic energy will be 0. At the top, I just figured out what my gravitational potential energy will be, so I can plug that in here. This is 5.88 joules. And spring potential energy, there is currently no spring or spoon compressed or bent up at the top, so I can just say that that is 0 as well. So for part D, it says, now that you have found how much each of the types of energy there is, what is the total amount of energy of the system? So to find total energy, all I need to do is add all of the types of energies together. So I'm going to add the 0. I'm going to add 0 joules of kinetic plus the 5.88 of gravitational potential plus the 0 of spring potential energy. And so to get the total, I just need to add those 3 together, and I get 5.88 joules. So then it asks me to complete the table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at what I've already calculated and figure out where it goes in this table. So at the very top, I said that it was not moving, which meant that I had a kinetic energy of 0. And remembering that kinetic energy is 0 when my velocity is 0, I'm going to look and see when else it's not moving, which is at position 1, my velocity is also 0. So position 1, kinetic energy will also be 0. Well, the only time that I'm going to have spring potential energy is when my spoon is bent backwards. So the only time that my spoon is bent backwards is here. So that one's not 0, but all the rest of these spring potential energies will be equal to 0. And last but not least, I have my positions calculated for my gravitational potential energy. I have my gravitational potential energy at 3 meters and my gravitational potential energy at 1.4 meters. So I'm going to just 2.744. So 2.744. Because at both of those, it's still at a height of 1.4. And at the top, it was 5.88. All right, so to figure out my total energy, all I need to do is find a row where I can add all of my energies together to get my total energy. So I'm adding 0 plus 5.88 plus 0, and that'll give me a total energy of 5.88. Now, if you recall, conservation of energy says that energy cannot be created or destroyed. So if I have 5.88 joules of energy at the top, that means I also need to have 5.88 joules of energy all the rest of the time. So I'm going to just copy the same number all the way down. And then once I have that, then I can work my way backwards. So here I know that in the second line, I need to be able to add my kinetic plus my gravitational potential energy plus 0 is going to equal 5.88. Well, I can easily figure out what my kinetic energy is because I can go 5.88 minus the 2.744 and I get 3.136. So this will go right there. I can also figure out my spring potential energy here because I know that 0 plus 2.744 plus something needs to equal 5.88. And so I can do 5.88 minus 2.744 and I get 3.136. Last but not least, I have when the food is just about to hit the floor. Well, when I'm just about to hit the floor, that means that my height is going to be 0. And when my height is 0, that means my gravitational potential energy will also be 0. So I need something plus 0 plus 0 is going to be equal to 5.88. So then I know that this kinetic energy will also be 5.88 joules. And that's all there is to it.